Hello everyone, thank you for attending our presentation. Thanks organizers, very friendly guys to provide this opportunity to meet each other. And as already mentioned, we are from Kaspersky Lab, and as a part of Kaspersky Lab, we provide security services for various organizations, government, and various industries. So services like penetration testing, forensic investigation, threat intelligence, and especially ATM security assessment. So I should make a short overview for all of us about what is actually ATM. Yes, it's like Lego, but Lego for big vendors, for adult people. And actually, ATM is a big metal box with top box, which called usually server zone or cabinet, and this part of ATM consists of usual PC, various devices to interact with users such as card reader, monitor, and so on. And the bottom part of ATM called safe usually consists of various cash dispenser, various cash devices like cash dispenser, caching module, and recycler module. And it should be noticed that almost all ATM around the world have the same log for every ATM. So not actually all ATMs, but all ATMs for every vendors. So it means that if you have a key from Bank A ATM, you can open the ATMs from Bank B, Bank C, and so on. So what about software? It's a usual computer, usual PC with operating system, with graphical interface to interact with customers and provide some technical opportunity to check something for security guys, for technical guys, for some marketing guys. And on the other side, it's device control and part of software to communicate with processing center. There are also some various stuff like antiviruses, reduce surveillance, and one of the most common things that there are also some crappy software like remote admin and Acrobat Reader number 6 version. I don't know why, but there are lots of software which might be used by attacker to open the door. What about devices? Devices are pretty unclear. There are some strange microcontrollers with real-time operating system, and guys who loves either Pro very sad about it. And yes, it's not a joke. We installed the Kali Linux on our ATM just for technical reason to check some hardware stuff. But someone thinks that Kali Linux is placed on everything, on anything. But speaking about ATM, almost all ATMs around the world are still run on Windows XP. Fortunately, some vendors and even some banks already implemented Windows 10 or Windows 7 in most common ways. But actually, there's still Windows XP or some Windows-based operating system. And the most common things with operating system, banks don't update this system. They just install it, for example, 10 years ago and don't touch it.
To sum up all the features that ATM machines and that are needed for ATM machine to work. We have processing center that issues commands to the ATM machine. It has all information about your banking accounts. It has all information about what transaction is actually happening right now and so on. ATM machine is connected through a network to this processing center. And we have Windows-based application that actually interacts with you, interacts with processing center, and issues comes to lower level of devices called express manager and service providers. Service providers are essentially not drivers, it's just some user-led applications that communicate with key devices like holding your mouse or something. And if you connect your ATM machine to candidates, all devices will be detected as USB devices, and you can issue arbitrary commands to any of the device. These things are from the 90s, and security inside these ATM machines are not pretty good. And this is often the case when we are asked, you're speaking that ATM machines are all vulnerable, they have different problems, hackers can do different stuff with them. Why so? We answered this by these words. These ATM machines were not affected by criminals only because they don't want to invest any time to taking these machines. They have other features, other means of fraud against you or against banks. Let's speak about techniques on ATM machines. There are different levels which hacker or criminal should affect. It's physical layer, for example, how you obtain access into the ATM machines. It's hardware level, how you access different devices inside of each ATM machines. It's software, because essentially everything in the ATM machine is controlled by software. For example, Windows applications or microcontroller firmware is pretty much the same, but in different, but a bit different. And obviously, it's network. We have prepared small lab in a section where you can access ATM machines through the network, and it is sending all information that is obtained through USB channels to the network, so you can identify traffic, you can access different devices inside ATM machines without actually going into the ATM machine. And we provide prizes for those of you who will be able to obtain sensitive information from the ATM machine, or be able to obtain money from the dispenser. And answering your question, there is no real money in the ATM machine. It's on the paper, but you can obtain with this paper real prizes. There are obviously different countermeasures that ATM machines should consist to protect against different frauds. And here's the chain of features that should be like an onion and torn, protect every layer under each layer. But unfortunately, it's just ATM centipede when if something breaks up, if one chain is broken, one piece of the chain is broken, all ATM machine is affected by criminal.
So the main goal of every criminal is cash, and let's speak about it. As already mentioned, there's some kind of chain outside of ATM, and usually banks and security guys think that if they have a big lock and big steel and concrete sandwich is safe, the ATM is very secure. But the attackers actually don't need to break the safe. They just need to break some piece of chain and get access to all money and flight and do whatever they want all their life. So let's speak about cash devices. There are, for example, dispenser, which usually consists of 4 cash cassettes with about 3,000 notes in each cassette, and also reject cassette put them money. For example, if customers forget the money, or if technical staff check the dispenser, this money will automatically reject cassettes. There are also cash-in, and as you might understand from this name, it's a device to put money inside the ATM, to put this money on your account, bank account. And there are also recycling model when all money inside this ATM recycled. Some money were put by bank staff, and this same money would be ejected to some customers, and if some other customers put their money to ATM, the same money would be ejected for other customers. So as I already mentioned, there are strange microcontroller and some piece of software called firmware, and this firmware sometimes might be hooked.
There is a possibility for attacker to install something not on ATM computer, because it's maybe ordinary PC, but inside this firmware, and access it from the outside. And we prepared some attacks for banks that works in this way. We install special firmware on the cash dispenser, and then if someone manages to dispense special amount of money in sequence, for example, 3 banknotes from the second cassette, 4 banknotes from the fourth cassette, and so on, then this next dispenser will dispense all money from one cassette for attacker. It's a covert channel without any communication to the original processing center, to the ATM software, to any other protection means, but through the firmware itself.
Other goal of criminals is track to data from your cards, and let's speak a bit about this means. Yes, in some cases, attackers might intercept the track to data in plain text, and for example, through the network or through the USB sniffing, USB traffic sniffing, and one of the most common things that attackers might use publicly available tools to intercept the data, to intercept this traffic, and obtain track to data in plain text. Usually banks think that if they are implemented some smart card, they are secure and their clients are secure, but it's not. Because until these cards consist of magnet stripe, it means that for all data which consists of on magnet stripe is already it is the same as on a smart card, on smart chip. So it means that if attacker intercept the track to data from the magnet stripe, they might use this data to eject money from your account, wherever they want. For example, in some countries where smart card and DMV card and is not implemented. And some banks and some vendors already implemented more secure features like biometric authentication, like fingerprints, like iris recognition, face recognition, and so on. But you might be familiar with various news about bypassing these features, and it means that if you lose some part of your biometric, you cannot revoke it, because you can change your PIN, you can change your password, but you cannot change your finger.
That was about devices inside ATMs. Let's speak about communication lines that connect these devices to the ATM computer. Often it's common interfaces like serial ports, USB ports, or something called SDC. It's essentially also a serial bus, but with connection for multiple devices. And all this information considered by banks and considered by vendors very secure, because who can obtain information from a USB device? It's very fast, it's very protected, and you need to go inside ATM machines to connect to it, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, it's not the case. And often these protocols are not protected, and all the communications are in the plain text. For example, you can see a common packet for one of the dispensers that consists in the black box that customer ordered to dispense one banknote from the first cassette. If someone managed to change these values, for example, to 20 banknotes or to 40 banknotes, and these banknotes will be dispensed, and no protection except the CRC code inside this packet will protect against this attack. There are different opportunities to issue these commands. For example, you can buy for $30 Raspberry Pi or Gigaball Black or any other microcontroller, connect USB device from the ATM machine to this microcomputer, and issue commands instead of ordinary computer. And again, no protection in operating system, no protection with different countermeasures that are transmitted to the processing center and protect against such attacks.
Here is our demo, which we reproduced in our test bed. Let's say she's an attacker, and she bought a key from the internet or from some using some social techniques to eject this key from banking staff, and we disconnect the USB cable from of the dispenser from the PC and connect it to Raspberry Pi with a piece of code. And now we can see that a dispenser in the green box, but it means that the PC lost connection with the dispenser. And now we can control wirelessly this microcontroller to send dispense commands to this dispenser. And here is our small jackpot. It means that we bypass all security measures which are already implemented on the PC. And it means that there are no authentication between PC and dispenser. So it's kind of man-in-the-middle attack.
And as you can see, after a successful attack, the device is taken out of ATM machines, and there is no forensic evidence to investigate, to understand what actually happened. If you don't have, for example, CCTV or any other surveillance cameras that are filming this kind of attack. And there's another problem. When this device is installed inside ATM machines, in half a minute or so, all commands can be sent wirelessly to this Raspberry Pi, and you don't need to open ATM machine, you don't need to go near ATM machine. You just send these commands and obtain money from it.
Usually banks and security guys think that if ATM is inside of if money inside of safe, they are secure, and no money inside the service zone. But there are plenty of ways to bypass physical security of ATM. For example, as I already mentioned, to buy some key from the internet. There are plenty of them in some Chinese sites and Chinese web stores. And there are also a possibility to make this copy of this key if you know some code, like tubular locks. And some smart guys know that if they use screwdriver and put it inside the between the box of ATMs, they just put some special point and open the door. And of course, one more thing that other guys might use the very special stuff to open the door without any keys, and it's needed about 40 or 50 seconds to open the door. This video was filmed several years ago on the one more security conference placed in Russia. Very hard work.
Actually, most ATMs don't consist of such kind of lock. It's more common to blow locks. And this kind of lock is actually secure, but default lock for various ATMs is just two pins that are easily lockable.
So we are in, and some banks provide us the jokes that they are secure, for example, because they are placed their ATM inside of the banks, inside of the branch, or they use through the wall ATM when only a screen and some monitor and card reader and pin pad are available for the customers, and other part of ATM just inside some secure place. But there are plenty of attackers that just drill the hole on ATM box and disconnect the cable from, for example, pin pad, and connect it to the special hardware units, such as maybe Raspberry Pi or something like that again, and send commands to all bus directly. And there are, again, no forensic evidence, because when...
Except the real hole.
Yeah, but there are kind of new attacks when attackers do not need to drill the hole. They just open the light box which placed on the top of ATM or some advertising box, and just gain physical access easily without any drills, without any locks, gain physical access to USB cable directly and to PC core actually. But sometimes, if you take a look around, and you'll find some ATMs with USB cables outside of ATMs, with a lot of network equipment outside of ATMs, and sometimes it's all real photos which we made around us. Sometimes banks guys, I don't know why, they use the duct tape to close the door. So it means that attacker even do not need to do something to gain physical access inside of ATM, because everything they need is already outside.
Service providers, as I already mentioned, it's just a piece of software that issues commands. But unfortunately for ATM machines, these service providers are the most part of communication with hardware units, and actually they send commands and they authorize transfer computer and other devices on themselves. So no processing center is actually needed to communicate with such kind of devices. There are different possibilities for attackers to obtain information not through express managers but through these service providers themselves. Because XFS is actually very common between multiple ATMs and multiple vendors. It's the de facto standard for financial applications. But there are also service providers that I saw for various vendors. They bought from different OEM vendors, for example, Fujitsu, LG, and so on. And these devices also can be intercepted, and these calls can be sent. Actually, how it's hard to analyze software in the ATM? There is such an application as Frida that can intercept some comments in libraries. And if you issue this comment, for example, intercept all comments that are dispensed like, you can actually see the comments that you should send to obtain dispensing from the dispenser.
Here's one more demo from our test bed. It's a real case which we investigate about several months ago. That malware was, affects several ATMs around the world in several countries, and it up the window by reading some special check on the card, and attacker can see the screen, can see the window to put the password, special password, and put the action, for example, to dispense money, and put the number of cassettes, second cassettes again, and here is a small jackpot. As you can understand, attacker might repeat this attacks again and again until ATM became empty. And it's pretty scary because there are no XFS-based malware, because in this case, attacker just put special code inside the DLL and affect. They might affect all ATMs produced by this vendor around the world.
And obviously there are XFS-based applications that already spoken about for 5, 6, 7 years in a row, but unfortunately it's a standard and no one wants to migrate from it. No one wants to invest money into something new, something more secure. And when we have XFS inside our ATMs, we already have problems. And obviously, there are different other software, for example, Economic Redo, that affected for different buffer overflows. There are different possibilities for kiosk mode bypass, so you don't have to reboot ATM machine, you don't have to bypass administrative privileges. Often ATM machines are on the highest privileges on the computer, so you don't need to escalate privileges inside the operating system and so on. And obviously there's different possibility, for example, for sensitive data disclosure, because we all might be familiar with schemers that can steal your credit card data. But if something is installed inside the ATM machine, it intercepts on the data inside of it. The software means you don't have any possibility to know when you were affected, when your card was schemed. And when you go to the bank and say, oh, my card is affected, there are different transactions, and they say, okay, it's your problem because your card was schemed. But unfortunately, we investigated this case in forensic investigation. For 5 years, one bank, a large bank in Europe, was affected by software sniffer that was intercepting all credit card data of the customers, and no one had noticed it for 5 years in a row. And there's obviously different third-party software that is installed on the ATM machines that is considered secure and that they will protect against all problems inside of it. But unfortunately, they also can implement different problems. They can also have different buffer overflows inside of it, and we already investigated and we already identified multiple vendors that provide ATM security kits or any other things that have different problems.
So, as I already mentioned, Windows XP is still alive, and you might be familiar with lovely vulnerabilities of such operating system like MS 08067 or MS 17010, when attackers just might affect these machines with such kind of vulnerabilities and do whatever they want. And one more, there are old versions without any updates, with plenty of vulnerabilities, and in case of Windows XP, it means that there's some new vulnerabilities, some 0 days won't be patched ever. And there are plenty of standard services which are some standard ports which are open by default, and bank guys and security guys don't scare about this and don't understand what the attackers should actually do to obtain logical access to the ATM and to, for example, make the botnet from the ATM and so on.
But it actually is much larger picture than just ATM machines inside of it. Unfortunately, it's actually a larger picture. There are different possibilities for attackers to obtain access to ATM machines. Right? For example, administrative accounts inside of banks. There are different online services that provide communication with banking systems. They are all interconnected, and if someone manages to access, for example, one workstation inside of ATM network or banking network, they can obtain access to ATM devices, and they can actually issue updates on ATM machines with malware, and it will be fully legitimate from the point of view of ATM machine, but all ATM machines will be affected with the same malware whatsoever.
And here's my lovely part of this presentation. I suppose every one of you knows Shodan or some other search engine to enumerate all devices, all computers which are online. And the most stupid things that we heard from the banks, that there are no ATM around the world online, but it's not true, because if you know the right word, the dork for the Shodan or for other search engine, you can enumerate all ATM, thousands of ATMs around the world which are online. You can find their IP addresses, open ports. In some cases, you can find the physical address of this ATM, and you can enumerate some vulnerabilities. For example, you can find the SMB port, open SMB port, and guess what? You can do whatever you want. You can obtain all ATMs with these open ports and eject money from this ATM. I don't know, install some games like Angry Birds and so on, and just have fun with these ATMs. And one more example from our test bed, we are going to update the network. We own the network of this ATM. Again, we can gain easier access to Ethernet cable. Actually, we do not need to be inside of ATM, because sometimes we can find this cable outside of ATM. And we connect the cable to our special crafted device with a piece of code which emulate a real processing center to send commands to all ATMs inside this network, inside this flat network. So all ATM in this network are under our control, and we can send commands which looks like commands from original processing center, but with a bit different. And we can use any cards, any pins, any and do something which looks like original transactions, but we can eject money from all ATMs in this network. So small portion of money with blank card and have fun. And of course, attackers should return to eject this device to leave no forensic evidence, leave no physical evidence. And when banks guys will investigate this case, they just understand that something happened, and the logs looks like original logs, but a bit different. But usually they don't understand what actually happened.
And there is different VPNs that protect communication lines from the ATM machines to the processing center. But unfortunately, when you connect to the VPN client for yourself, you connect to the flat network of ATM machines that can be all affected. And in the previous video, you have seen that there is VPN client, hardware VPN client inside ATM machine. You connect to the people, and you connect to all ATMs in such a network. There are different possibilities for rogue attacks, as already mentioned. For example, you can attack ATM machines from the point of view of processing center, but you can also attack processing center from the point of view of ATM machine. And ATM machine is often considered safe and secure. So if this ATM machine consists of caching device, you can issue arbitrary amount of money that was inserted in the ATM machine through your banking account and dispense this money from this ATM machine in the next step. So, what about our lab? What about our contest in the nearby? We have ATM machines with small processing center that you can connect to this network. To this network, there will be UDP broadcasted packets that go through the USB connections. We don't want for you to break physically our ATM machines with a hammer or a crowbar or anything. We want you to be more intelligent and to understand that network protocols and USB protocols that are inside ATM machines can be affected. Obviously, this ATM machine is a bit less secure because there are different countermeasures that are implemented by vendor in the newer versions, and they are very hard to break in today's period. But these ATM machines can totally be affected by you, and there are different prizes. What are the goals? Goals are obtaining sensitive data from the bank cards that we will give to you through different means. For example, if you understand that it is possible to get track-to data from the network, you can also say to us how to obtain this data from the USB connections. In the second data, we will give you access to the USB cable of devices inside ATM machines for you to issue your own commands to such devices. And for example, the final goal is to obtain money from the fourth cassette of the ATM machines by connecting only USB cable to your computer. There are different rules that you can read on the website of the DefCamp, and thanks them for giving us possibility for this contest. And I hope that you will be interested in it, and moderators are always right.
Yeah.
Have fun, stay safe.
Yeah, guys, one more thing about our contest. We should understand that this ATM was we prepared with lowest privileges, with lowest level of security. So we disabled some security features to provide your opportunity to make to feel your real hacker, but don't do anything offensive with this ATM, or don't do anything with ATMs around the world, around you. It might be very bad things for you. And if you have any questions, please ask us now, or we are welcome after presentation. Yeah, or we'll welcome you after hall to make some stuff with our ATM. So thank you for your attention.